we're joined now by economist and financial expert Kelvin Emmanuel, who's no stranger to Newsnight. Good to have you on Newsnight again. Well, you've listened to the experts, those driving Nigeria's economy. A question that people are already asking, based on the World Bank's statement, is who exactly is on the driver's seat of Nigeria's economy? Is it the World Bank, the IMF, or is it the gentleman that you have just seen in that report? And most importantly, what's your take? Because Nigerians are suffering, but the World Bank says the ongoing economic reforms are working. You agree?
I think they're working. And it's important for us to understand that the World Bank is not responsible for the problems of Nigeria. The Nigerian government should take responsibility for the problems that this country has. Okay? Nigeria is a member of the World Bank Group, IMF. Nigeria has special drawing rights of about 3.3 billion units. The World Bank, is divided into two: International Bank for Reconstruction and Development, International Development Association. You've seen the history of loans between Nigeria and the World Bank. The loans are granted this year. But an important point, if I come to the macroeconomics that Jamie Dimon made when he spoke at the NESG, was on the ratio on development finance that multilateral institutions globally and governments give to the World Bank to finance low-income countries, to the ratio of private capital, and how that speaks so largely on how well an economy is performing. Okay? Now, on the issue of the net external reserves, which is now up to $5.9 billion, it's important for us to note that a year ago, Nigeria's net external reserves was negative. The gross external reserves was over $30 billion, but the net external reserve, because of encumbrances from FX forwards, from swaps that were owed to external asset managers to the Central Bank of Nigeria, they were negative. And so it's impressive that the central bank has built net external reserves to 5.9 billion. But an important point you have to realize is that there is what is called the Guidosi principle, basically in central banking all over the world, that says your net external reserves must match your balance of payments for 1 year, right? Nigeria's balance of payment is nearly $8 billion. So the net external reserves is still creeping. The Nigerian market today needs liquidity of about $3 billion monthly. The question is, where is it going to come from? NNPC is not remitting that money. 10 years ago, it was remitting $3 billion on a monthly basis. Today, it's remitting less than $300 million on a monthly basis. So if your major source of FX supply is not giving you the FX to supply the markets, what you're going to have is you're going to have exchange rate shocks. So it's a good decision, like I confirmed earlier today, that the NNPC is stop issuing PFAs to marketers to leave PMS, and is beginning to comply with Federal Executive Council to deregulate the market according to sections 205 of the PIA and backwardly integrate to the refinery in Lagos. So it's a good decision.
Okay, while there seem to be signs of progress as highlighted by the World Bank and yourself, perhaps you should help us give a sense of what truly is driving inflation, because inflation seems to be soaring in the midst of this progress.
The major cause of inflation is the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria violated Section 38 of the CBN Act of 2007 and created monies. And what happened basically is that 10 years ago you had CRR at 14% when MFLA took over as central bank governor. In 2000,
cash reserve ratio.
Cash reserve ratio for banks. He raised it to 32.5% when he left. Cardozo has increased it to about 50%, which is one of the highest in the world. Not the highest, I have to confirm, but it's one of the highest CRR ratios. The Bank of International Settlements.
Was that a good thing?
It's a very negative sign, because what you're doing, you're saying that 50 kobo of every 1 naira deposited in banks in Nigeria are going to be parked at the Central Bank of Nigeria at no interest to the commercial banks. Where do they get credit or liquidity to supply the markets? The former CBN governor created money that was not backed by any assets or reserves, and that led to massive devaluation of the currency. Then he kept an artificial peg and started borrowing from external asset managers, which made you had encumbrances with the net external reserves. That's the source of this inflation you're seeing today. So I wouldn't blame the current president for the inflation you've seen, but what I would say is that government is a continuum, and the fact that the fiscal authorities in Nigeria have not seen the need to unbundle NNPC and focus on the layers for increasing food production has kept Nigeria as
Kevin, sorry, you know, Kevin, it may sound personal, but not to you, to the drivers of our economy, specifically the coordinating minister and the central bank chief. You know, time was when they thought that these were the fantastic guys who could actually plug the numbers. Does it occur to you that somehow they seem to be living in the past and not knowing that there are things to do? Because in all of this, it still doesn't translate into something positive in the everyday life of Nigerians.
What Nigerians want to see is lower inflation. What they want to see is no moral hazard, reduced cost of governance. The political class has not shown Nigerians that they bear the pain of Nigerians, even if the reforms is actually causing pain to Nigerians. So if you have a situation, for example, where the president is putting his political considerations for 2027 when he's making decisions over serious structural changes, this is his time. It's now. He's now or never. He's the president. Why are you thinking about 2027 when you have 2024? No, so to have decisions that might cost him political capital is what he needs to do. Why do you have to announce that you're changing your cabinet when you are the president and you can go ahead and change your cabinet?
And
Why do you have to announce
it? Still hasn't changed.
And it still hasn't changed it. Because it's my view that the current set of ministers you have in the Federal Executive Council, most of them don't have the capacity or technical competence to manage the structural reforms that this economy needs. That's just the fact.
So now, very quickly before we wrap on this, the World Bank says the policy measures so far, the removal of fuel subsidy and of course the floating of the naira, that it's making Nigeria's economy more attractive to foreign investors. Do you agree with that?
The removal of the petrol subsidy is the best decision that has happened in a long time. But at the same time, we also need to realize that there are shocks that need to be provided for Nigerians, because you've seen petrol prices go to levels not seen before. The cost of living crisis is happening, and people are practically living on the edge. You know, if you see the ratio of shark loans that people collect outside of the official banking system has gone up, which is an alarm bell for the monetary authorities, basically. You know, so I think the removal of petrol subsidies are good, and the fact that the numbers show that the level of petrol imports are reducing and you're moving towards a competitive market, and you have a refinery in Lagos that can fully backwardly integrate the need for transportation fuels that Nigeria needs, is a major
and we're
step.
being told we'll have to stay the course for at least 10 to 15 years.
I think it's important for us to separate stabilizing the economy, bringing down inflation, and seeing the naira gain to a fair value, which I put at between 950 and 1,150, 1,200, and really raising your GDP and growing towards a $1 trillion economy. They are two separate things entirely. Right. I think you need another 2 or 3 years of consistent structural reforms and changes, and of major changes that the monetary authorities are making to bring inflation back down to anywhere between 22 and 24%, and also bring the naira back to fair value, which is really going to go a long way in alleviating the pains Nigerians are currently facing.
Kelvin, Emmanuel, always a delight having you on Newsnight.
Thank you.